Hi, and welcome to Coach Jude at Rangitoto. One of the big questions I'm always asking myself is, why do I eat the things that I do? What drives my eating behaviour? And from what I've found out, it's complicated. The popular media tries to imply that this is fully under our conscious control, which is not just a gross oversimplification, but frankly insulting. Thankfully, this view is not shared by the majority of obesity researchers. To say that we can control our eating is like saying that we can control our breathing. Yes, we can hold our breath for a while, but eventually our body will take over and make us breathe. It's exactly the same with eating. So today I'm going to talk about the role the hormone leptin plays in influencing both your eating habits and your weight. Leptin is a hormone I wasn't really aware of until a few years ago, when I listened to an excellent Life Scientific programme on BBC Radio 4. The programme described how a rare genetic mutation prevents people with the mutation from producing leptin. As a result, those people have a raging hunger that can never be satisfied until leptin is administered. Was this the reason I gained all my weight? I wasn't producing enough leptin rather. Unfortunately, the answer was a resounding no. But my deep dive did produce some major insights. So stay tuned to learn about how you can influence both your leptin response and your weight. And if you want more general help with managing your weight because you're just setting out on your weight loss journey, or perhaps you've stalled, check out the link below to my free comprehensive guide to kickstarting your weight loss. Leptin is often described as the fat controller. When levels are high, it suppresses our appetite and boosts our metabolism. When levels are low, it boosts our appetite and reduces our metabolism. Basically, it works a bit like a thermostat, and it can be extraordinarily good at this, meaning that some people can maintain a stable weight without any effort at all. Very annoyingly, I live with one of these types of people. My husband's weight rarely fluctuates by more than 1 or 2 pounds, no matter what he eats, whereas as soon as I take my eye off the ball, I can gain 10 pounds or more very rapidly. So what is going on? Leptin levels are detected by our hypothalamus, a small structure in the centre of our brain. The more body fat you have, the more leptin you produce. So when I was morbidly obese, I was literally swimming in leptin, but this seemed to have little impact on my appetite or my metabolism. Why? Well, there are 2 possibilities. One is that even though there's lots of leptin sloshing around, for some reason my hypothalamus or the hypothalamus isn't detecting it. It's become leptin resistant. Or alternatively, the body is sending out all the right signals, but basically we are choosing to ignore them. Essentially being as contrary as my cat Kiki. What might affect the hypothalamus to cause it to become leptin resistant? Now, the research in this area is quite new, but there are several theories as to what is happening. One theory demonstrated in animal models indicates that you can induce inflammation in the hypothalamus, leptin resistance, and overeating in hours just by eating a diet high in saturated fat. Work done on humans seems to support this theory. Interestingly, it also noted that the high levels of saturated fat seem to lower our motivation to exercise, further conserving energy. Now, for me, this starts to make a bit of sense because I love butter, cream, cheese, the fat on meat, etc. I've always said I have a fat tooth rather than a sweet tooth. But before all you guys start feeling smug if this isn't you, a lot of your sweet treats are also stuffed with saturated fat. These days I eat a mainly plant-based diet, but I still eat a reasonable quantity of plant-based saturated fat like palm and coconut oil, which seems to induce the same effects according to the studies. Non-saturated fat like olive oil doesn't seem to have the same effect at all. Again, no one is really sure why this happens, but an article in the Scientific American came up with an interesting idea. I've included the link. Essentially, when we starve or limit our energy intake, our body starts to break down our fat stores for energy, releasing large quantities of fat into our bloodstream. When we eat high-fat foods, the same thing happens. However, the body interprets both of these in the same way. It thinks we are starving because it doesn't know the source of all that fat in the blood. And as the body sees protecting us from starvation as its primary role, it encourages us to eat and suppresses our metabolism and energy use, basically creating a vicious cycle. Another theory supported by the work done by Robert Lustig is that leptin resistance is a result of insulin resistance. This says that high levels of circulating insulin stops the hypothalamus detecting the leptin. As both the insulin and the leptin have receptors in the hypothalamus, one idea about how it does this is by the insulin basically blocking the leptin receptors so your brain can't see the leptin. So if you have leptin resistance, how can you improve your brain's sensitivity? Well, the key strategies seem to be to consume lots of anti-inflammatory foods, rich in whole plant foods. Think the Mediterranean diet, and avoid pro-inflammatory ones, processed food, high sugar, red meat, etc. Eat a diet low in saturated fat. Eat a high fibre diet. Fibre is anti-inflammatory. Lose weight. This reduces the circulating levels of leptin. High levels seem to trigger the leptin resistance. Take regular exercise, as this reduces inflammation and improves your insulin response. And finally, get adequate amounts of sleep, between 7 and 9 hours. Basically, the standard for healthy living, which I know can be somewhat depressing, as I think most of us would like to find an easy way of maintaining our eating habits, general lifestyle, etc., and effortlessly maintain a healthy weight. But don't make this a cause for despair. From my own journey, I've found that just eating real whole food as much as possible and exercising makes me feel fabulous. So rather than your life being less, it could actually be much, much more. But could it actually be something else that's going on? There is an assumption out there that if you're obese and you carry excess weight, particularly around your middle, then you're leptin resistant. However, I recently read a summary of another piece of research that possibly indicates otherwise. I told you it was complicated. In this study, there was a mixed group of people, both lean and obese. They were provided with a bland sludge to eat that contained all the essential nutrients that they would need and allowed them to eat as much as possible. The lean group ate just about exactly the right amount to maintain their body weight. Their leptin was working just fine. What do you think the obese people did? They actually ate far less, typically only consuming a few hundred calories per day, implying possibly that their leptin was working just fine and was suppressing their appetites. Or is something else going on here? When the food was not particularly palatable, the obese people lost their desire to eat. But was this being caused by the leptin, or possibly another hormone that shapes our eating behaviour? Could it be our old friend dopamine, the pleasure or reward hormone? Is it more important to control this hormone than to get your leptin working properly? Honest answer, I don't really know, and I haven't seen anything in the literature either. My guess is that you need to manage both hormones, leptin and dopamine, and I'll be talking about how to manage your dopamine levels in future episodes. So getting leptin to work properly really does seem to be one of the holy grails of weight management. Why? Because if it does, as it should, you can let your body take care of your weight without constantly monitoring your food intake, keeping it stable for years. Now that's what I call a result and freedom. So building some of the key strategies into your lifestyle could benefit you in spades. For me, I think I'm going to look long and hard at ways I can increase my fibre intake and reduce my saturated fat, as this is not something I've focused on so far. And remember, if you need ideas because you're just getting started or you're struggling, please check out the link below to my free comprehensive guide to kickstarting your weight loss. And on that thought, I'll leave you. As always, I thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to like this episode if you found it useful, subscribe if you want to learn more, and do share your progress, your triumphs, and your insights with me. All the best. Until next time. Bye.